Men do not menstruate. Only women menstruate. Now, you can call yourself whatever you want.
Cis men don't menstruate, but trans men do menstruate.
No,
Same
they
as
don't.
non-binary people.
Only women.
Menstruating is not exclusive to cis women. No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
So explain to me as to why my body menstruated at some point.
If your chromosomes are XX and you're young, you menstruate. If you're XY, you don't.
Correct, but what about trans men and non-binary? We're excluding a whole group of people
They're women
that
dressed
menstruate.
as men.
Well, what's a man to you? You define a man for me.
You have chromosomes that are X and Y. That's what a man is.
So why are we just looking at the science of this as an example when we've learned sex and gender identity are they're completely different things?
They're not completely different.
They are completely different.
Completely different words.
Sex is what you're born with, the sexual reproductive organs you have. Gender is what you identify with. They're completely different things.
Well, I don't accept that distinction. You have to argue for it. You're just giving a conclusion. You're just making it up.
Men don't menstruate. That is a fact and a reality. How calmly she said they could, and what a shut-up call she got. Respect to the professor.
Ich bin Feder. Ich bin eigentlich 17 Jahre alt, aber ich bin auch nebenbei ein Fuchs. Und in dem bin ich momentan 4 Monate alt.
Ich bin Zoll, ich bin 19 Jahre alt und meine Pronomen sind they, she.
So, ich bin Milo, ich gehe mit allen Pronomen und ich bin 13 Jahre alt.
Ja, ich bin da Felix, das Alpha von einem Rudel und bin 1,5 Jahre Papi.
Ich habe 5 Namen. Ich benutze Gabriel, Luca, Bug, Mats und Fall.
Ich bin Sydney.
Jennifer Lawrence made the news when she demanded equal pay for women in Hollywood, and she received, overwhelming support. There were marches on the street with nurses and factory workers saying, how the hell can a 25-year-old live on 52 million? This is...
Man, he roasts everybody in the room and gets applauded by them. Ricky is a fucking savage.
Would any of you date a trans person?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like if I say no, I'm going to get a lot of backlash.
Well,
but I think my personal
be
preference, I would say no.
Okay, that's fine.
No.
No.
No. Hell
well,
no.
You're married. Me personally, I would not. My question to you guys is, would any of you object to a man not wanting to date a transgender woman?
I think everybody has their own personal preferences, and if there's one thing you're allowed to be super picky on, it's who you date. Like, I think that's the only thing that you can 100% have free reign on. You can date who you decide.
I would completely agree with her. Like we talked about before, I think that everyone should have boundaries, and as long as that person's upfront and honest and they can have like an adult conversation that isn't rooted in hatred, I don't think there's anything wrong with preferring somebody that isn't trans.
Okay. I have a question. So, this has been like a thing that's gone viral on this podcast before, and it always seems to spark quite a debate. So, would you consider it to be gay for a man to date a trans woman?
Yes.
For a man to date, no, personally.
Would you categorize him as straight?
Probably, yeah. Because, what is it? Oh, sorry.
This is
Here,
too technical.
I mean,
I just...
If you don't want to answer, that's fine. Go ahead. If you don't want to answer, that's fine. Go ahead.
I'm with Pixie. I don't think that makes them gay at all.
SE?
I have no clue.
I would prefer not to answer.
Man, honestly, this shit gives me the chills. Because the fact that we're even having this conversation means that the world is doomed already. And yes, it is gay for a man to date a trans woman. That's just a fact, and we all know that.
I'm not into all the other bullshit. I think...
What other bullshit?
The they and them.
Yeah.
And all that extra shit that we added during the pandemic because everyone was so bored on their fucking houses. They just started to make up more shit and more shit.
More stuff.
Yeah. That's where the conservatives like me because I'm just real.
Yeah, you do have a conservative vibe to you.
You're not they and them. You're trans, you're male or you're female.
And you're standing on that.
Get so mad when I say that. How are you a they? What the fuck does that mean? It's stupid is what it is.
Yeah.
But you need someone like me that looks like me to say it. Because if you say it, it turns into you're homophobic, you hate trans people, you hate gays. And it's just how you feel. You don't hate anyone. You just think it's stupid.
It is known in the black community that most, not all, but most black people are racist toward white Americans.
You say it's known. What do you mean? Where's your basis for that?
They have been brainwashed over the last 50 years or so to believe that America is a racist society and that white folks are trying to hold them back.
I just want to read you this poster that I have because I hear a lot of pro-lifers
say that life begins at conception. So my poster reads, life begins when you understand living women matter more than potential babies.
What?
What is it?
What do you mean?
What did she just say?
Baby, what is inside of a woman?
It's a fetus.
That's just selfish.
Is it living?
No.
How can it grow if it's not living?
Actually, that's like saying if an acorn is a tree.
When does the fetus become living?
That's actually a good question, but that line...
Yeah, of course, because you don't know it, because it's living. It's living.
How about you let her speak?
You're fundamentally denying science to validate your opinion.
You actively deny science, ma'am.
How am I denying? What science did I deny, Darby?
Okay, so let's look at some posters over here.
But
you don't have to be here.
I need you to tell me what science. You just made an accusation that I denied science. What science did I deny?
That it's a child inside of you. It is a clump of cells when
I'm a clump of cells. What makes me different?
That you were born. You were born.
So you don't. What you're arguing is that anything that is not born is not valuable of life.
I did not say that.
It's subjective. So when does a child or fetus or clump of cells, whatever you want to call it, when does this clump of cells or fetus become living?
When it can sustain its own life.
But when is that?
Wow.
When is the sustainability?
Wow, that's just crazy. When it can't sustain its own life, says the woman child who's living off her parents.
You keep defining abortion as the murder of babies, which biological fact is you would say most abortions are done before they are actually babies. It's still just a fetus. So my
question... Do you know what the word fetus means?
It's just a cluster, a
that's
zygote developing
into
means. A baby eventually.
The word fetus, it's a Latin word, and it just means offspring. That's all it means. It just means the next generation of a being. So, but that's what a baby is also. I mean, that's what you would call your adult child someday once he's grown, hopefully if he hasn't been murdered.
Can I ask my question?
Well, I'm just like to clarify this point. You would call your adult child your offspring too, but all of these terms that you might use, fetus, embryo, the one they love is zygote, which sounds like a Pokemon, but they use all these different terms, but it's all referring to the same being, and you were that being once. You, the person who's standing here right now.
Do any of us have a memory of being that being?
No, I mean, I don't have a memory of last Thursday, frankly. It's been a very busy week, but the lack of a memory doesn't mean that it's all right to murder me.
Well, anyways, my question is, you stress murdering babies a lot, but when it comes to murdering babies, kids, and everything in everyday shootings that keep happening, you say nothing. So I ask, why is it okay to murder babies when it's regulating women but not regulating guns?
No, I say quite a lot about that, actually. I think the crime is a terrible problem, and I think it's just awful that liberals have funded and intentionally installed liberal DAs who won't prosecute violent criminals. This has led to an increase in violent crime, and it's awful. I totally oppose that. But it's not me, and it's not my side that's funding that sort of thing. Now, you say, why wouldn't I want to regulate guns? Guns are very regulated in the United States as it is. And I've yet to hear one gun control proposal that would stop any of these shooting incidents that people talk about. People focus on the sensationalized ones from the news, a school shooting or a movie theater shooting. No proposed gun control legislation of the last 30 years would have stopped any of those. And the majority of the shootings are gang-related, and they're handgun shootings. And so I'm all for cracking down on those gangs and throwing them all in the can, but it's usually the liberals telling me that we have to abolish the police and go soft on crime, and you know they were just failed by society, and so we can't put them in prison, and we have to abolish the prisons too. That's not me. I'm all for it. You want to get me a bill, you want to elect me to office and get a bill in front of me that will crack down on gang crime and these gangsters using handguns to kill kids, let's do it. I'd sign that in 2 seconds. But it's not up to me, unfortunately. It's up to the side that I suspect you would consider yourself to be on.
We can all see Michael's arguments and points flying right over her head. She argues like a child.
Once upon a time in Hollywood, nearly 3 hours long, Leonardo DiCaprio attended the premiere, and by the end, his date was too old for him. So, even Prince Andrew's like, come on, Leo, mate, you know, you're nearly 50, son.
Of course, the big question at the moment globally is, should gay men be allowed to get married? And I'm a liberal. I say yes, as long as they find the right woman. I could have been gay. I failed the oral. Don't neglect the balls. There's a lesson. My girlfriend put me on the spot recently. She said, what are my 10 best features? I said, I like your optimism. 10? Wind your fucking neck in, love. I couldn't name 3. I'm still here.
All outcomes for the man, woman, and children, if they stay together in an intact family, are universally better than any other single dynamic we've ever seen.
Well, just because it's better than the other shit show doesn't mean it's optimal. It still doesn't mean that it's heaven.
Well, hang on. So unless you can give a counter to any family dynamic that works better than the nuclear cross-generational family, then you have no leg to stand on. And so here's what I'm going to do. Tell me a family dynamic which is better than a nuclear or cross-generational family. Just give me one.
I had an intact family unit with very abusive people.
Did you say that your parents are still married?
No, they're not still married. But
And when did they get divorced?
my biological parents never got married. My mother, when I was 3,
Then
married my
what are
stepdad.
you talking about?
You're proving his point, girl.
You're proving my point?
She is from multiple broken homes and wants to complain about the nuclear family. Make it make sense.
Now, I'm not.
What's your hot say?
ICE.
What does that stand for?
Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement.
Hey, listen.
Have a nice day. Let's have a conversation.
That's exactly how a misbehaving child would act in this kind of situation.
Stupid piece of racist, fascist movement showed up in DC. This is what I did. Women's rights, human rights. Ashley Babbitt, she deserved to die. Tell Mickey, I hope Ashley Babbitt's getting eaten by worms. I hope she's getting eaten by worms. I hope her eyeballs are rotting out of her body, dragged right to hell.
Say that to this camera. I dare you.
Ashley Babbitt.
Bro, this is just ridiculous. Her calling him a fascist when she's a leftist-controlled pawn is hilarious. I don't think she even knows what fascism means.
You don't care if people die. I thought this was a cult. You don't care if people die. You care about the babies? You care about the 60 million babies that have died in America? You don't care if people die. That was really aggressive. You don't care if people die. That was really aggressive. You don't care if people die. You don't care about the 60 million babies. You don't care if people die. You don't care about the 60 million babies. You don't care if people die. Yeah, I do. You don't care if people die. Are you just gonna say that over and over? You don't care if people die.
I am going to spend the next minute screaming, because that is what is going on in here. That is what the trans genocide in this country, in this city, has brought me to.
Bro, these people don't know how to behave publicly. They debate their rights by screaming. It's just pathetic.
Absolutely not. Don't ever call me transphobic. Ever. You do not know me. You're being transphobic, Karen. Now get out. Call me transphobic. You are transphobic. Now get out. I'm a refund. You're not having one, dude.
They will only spend their whole life debating their pronouns and how people still identify them.
How do you feel about being called a fascist? What's your opinion on
I don't care being lied about.
Why is it a lie?
Because I'm not a fascist. I believe in a free society. Let me ask you, who's the fascist? The guy that's smiling in the sun, or the 500 people barking trying to prevent me from speaking?
I don't think any of them.
No, I'm not. Well, I think they're fascists. But using power to not allow speech is hallmark fascism.
Is it militaristic power? No, it's the First Amendment.
Well, they're trying to interrupt me. They're agitating.
Okay, that's not fascist.
Well, they're cultural fascists.
Cultural fascism?
Yes.
I've never heard that.
Well, you
What is
should
that?
read Antonio Gramsci. It's Antonio Gramsci, Letters from Prison, 1929. It's using your power, using your influence to try to prevent Western values from being advanced. So instead of them talking to me, they try to interrupt me, mock, smear, and slander, which goes to show they're very worried they can't defend their positions.
You can see the student realizing that Charlie has a point. When he said using power to not allow free speech is some sort of fascism, yeah, that student just got dismantled with sharp reasoning.
So I identify as non-binary and trans at the same time. I believe non-binary is under the trans umbrella. I'm neither, I am both, I am beyond.
I completely
reject how non-binary people specifically have injected themselves into the trans label. I am a transsexual. There's a medical basis for that. There's a scientific basis for that. And for non-binary, it's really not the case. I think that non-binary is more of a political term than anything else, which is why I've never met a non-binary Republican, non-binary Libertarian. It's clearly an invention of the left.
I'm neither, I'm both, I'm beyond. It reminds me of that phrase of The Dark Knight.
I am the Knight. I am Batman!
What do you identify as?
I'm non-binary, or like gender non-conforming.
My pronouns are she, her, so work. Use that as you will.
Like trust your body, trust your mind. Go with like, if something feels good to you, follow that. And don't be so like strict, like don't feel a need to label yourself or so strongly.
It'll be difficult, and like you'll cry and you'll laugh and you'll do all those things. I think the biggest thing that I learned is that like if you're breathing and you're there like right now and you can think about it, then that's what you should be like for like that day. Like don't think too hard about like the future, think about like what's happening right now, and that's okay.
Now, I want to say this, and I want you to accept me the way I am. I don't want no judgments. I don't want you to judge me in the comments. I'm starting to identify as Michael Jackson, and my pronouns are...
My name is Miriam Grossman. I am a board-certified child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist, author, and senior fellow at Do No Harm. I have been taking care of patients for 45 years. I'm going to use my time to respond to Dr. McNamara. First, I'm struck by her use of the phrase, sex assigned at birth. Sex is not assigned at birth. Sex is established at conception, and it's recognized at birth, if not earlier. Dr. McNamara claims that her views are science-based, but to claim that sex is assigned at birth is without any scientific basis whatsoever. Its language misleads people, especially children, into thinking that male and female are arbitrary designations and can change. That is simply not true. Dr. McNamara claims that social and medical interventions are the only evidence-based treatment and that scientific evidence shows it is life-saving. Without it, she's warning us, kids will commit suicide. Well, a growing number of countries have effectively banned the care to which she's referring. And thank God there's been no wave of suicides or other mental health catastrophes. 3 years ago, Finland placed strict limitations on medical interventions for minors. Sweden did the same thing after a 14-year-old girl was found to have osteoporosis and spinal fractures from puberty blockers. An investigation concluded, quote, the risks of anti-puberty and hormone treatment for those under 18 currently outweigh the possible benefits.
The fact that she needs to explain this to a room full of adults says something about the world today. And it's just horrifying. Thank you to this doctor for sharing the truth that we all know and exposing their lies.
Do you believe that pride parades are a good place for children?
Yes, because whether or not we want to admit it, they're going to be adults.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why?
Showing inclusivity to the community. Just showing that everybody can love anybody.
Yes.
Yes. Why?
I think that if you shelter a child from what's happening in the world, you're denying them the possibilities of their life. So if they're not seeing what pride looks like, just like any event, any parade and all that, it needs to normalize, because a lot of people, when they think of homosexuality, they just think of the act of sex and not the act of love. But if they bring their kids out, they see people having a good time, it normalizes them and makes them feel safe if they end up being gay.
Okay. Do you believe that pride parades are a good place for children?
Yes.
Why?
Because I feel like every child learns love at a young age. If they don't understand the equality of love, then they grow up to spread hate.
Absolutely. It's an all-inclusive event. It's a great way for children to see it and experience all the color and all the fun and inclusivity that we have.
Bringing children to these mental illness parades is a sickness. Children are supposed to be protected and sheltered. To an extent. We can disagree to what extent, but we don't let children in strip clubs for a reason.